Everyone in Ontario has the right to legal representation. The Ontario Legal Aid Plan is a program to help people who cannot afford to pay for legal services. The women you're about to meet have all faced legal problems with financial help from the Ontario Legal Aid Plan. We hope these stories will inspire other women who need help paying for a lawyer.
Roxanne first learned about legal aid from volunteers at a women's shelter. After charging her husband with assault, she filed for divorce and custody of her 5 children. She had no money and no property.
For the first time, I had to be honest with myself with what really happened within my home. And it happened to be domestic violence, wife assault, and emotional abuse against my children, and all forms of abuse against me. And for the first time, I had to verbalize that, and it was being recorded. So I knew I had to be as honest as I could be at that time. To know that there's other people not doing the same thing I'm doing, but along the same path of having to do the same difficult tasks, such as getting out of a relationship. And having to do it legally, not just emotionally is hard enough, but to have to actually take the steps and do it legally, that's even more intimidating. I didn't have any money, so I had to express that when I made different phone calls. And it didn't take too many when someone suggested legal aid. I felt that that these people, it was legal aid, it was for people who like myself, no lower or poverty line income or low income, and that this was an agency to help me, is how I looked at it, and so I trusted that. When I went to legal aid the first time, my self-esteem and my self-worth was in the gutter. And so then I see these professional, predominant people, and I just felt I wasn't worthy to even be around them. I was judging myself. I didn't think they were judging me, but I was judging myself. Legal aid allowed me to choose my lawyer, and I think it's like therapists. You have to pick one that you feel comfortable with, and I know that's what I did, and I was really fortunate that the first one I picked, she was it. At the time, I had asked, and my lawyer had asked the judge for a certain thing in the separation, and the judge denied. And at the time, I was furious. But I never blamed my lawyer for that. Like, for some reason, I knew it was ultimately the judge's choice. But then, a year down the road, I believe that that decision that the judge made was the correct decision. To make a legal stand really proved to me that I was serious in what I felt I needed for myself and my children. It's taken a lot of years to believe that I deserve to do good things for myself, and then along in tow come the children. Still today, I don't 100% believe that sometimes. Some days are better than others.
After 26 years, Nazneen finally charged her husband with assault. Although she lived in a comfortable middle-class home, her husband had always handled family finances. When she began divorce proceedings, Nazneen had less than $38 in the bank.
I knew without a doubt that I had been mistreated by another human being, and that no one was going to do that to me again. I had heard about a system called legal aid, but I didn't know who it was available to. And basically the first step, who do you call? Who is the voice at the other end? What is this process going to involve? Can I ask questions when I get there? In my case, I was so shell-shocked and humiliated because part of my brain said, you are going somewhere to beg for financial assistance. But once, when it was explained to me that they would attach a lien to the property that I owned, 50%, then part of that humiliation dissipated as well, because I thought, this is all right in that sense. Whenever the settlement process takes place, well, it's a loan, and it'll be repaid. Once I went through the process, I at least had a tremendous feeling of confidence that out there was something that society had erected that was going to assist me. I was serviced magnificently by my lawyer, who gave me the same privilege and time and concern as I assume she would her other clients. When my case was ended and I got my divorce, when the final settlement was done on my legal aid case, and my solicitor sent me the invoicing that she had done, in which everything was outlined, whether it was a telephone attendance or whether it was court or whatever petition it was, I was then able to see that this is an amazing system. I mean, there may be pitfalls and there may be ways to redefine it and make it more accessible, but I had one of the best lawyers in this country, who made no difference whether I was a legal aid case or a case that came, with a checkbook. I think the best thing that happened to me, this is the truth, is my lawyer saying to me, it's going to be all right. You're going to come out of this.
Wendy finally admitted to herself that her marriage wasn't working and couldn't be saved. In order to avoid the potential trauma of court proceedings for herself and her 3 sons, she decided to look into divorce through mediation.
I knew that I had to try to find a way of continuing on with the family matters that I was involved in, rather than leaving it, because they were not going to get better. They were going to get worse. But going into legal aid the first time, it was one of those situations where I knew that I have to try to find a way to help myself in this, and that there may be a way here to get that financial aid that I needed, because I was becoming extremely destitute, so that I could get legal help to continue on, for example, in legal aid. They refused me flat out. And I thought, this has been so hard. Going through this, doing everything they wanted to do, and they said no. They said, no, you have to come up with X amount of cash before we'll talk to you. Well, I just about quit at that point. I had no idea that I could appeal it. When I found out that I could appeal it, then I did. And I talked to them and worked out something that would work for them and work for me. I actually didn't know that I could apply through legal aid to mediate. I just brought up the subject myself. I'm interested in going the route of mediation. And she had the information. She said, if you want to do that, then we apply to legal aid and we get a mediation lawyer through legal aid. I think the most important thing is, in finding a lawyer, is talking to people who have used a lawyer for the same kind of process that you are involved in. Or if you don't know anybody who's done that, ask the lawyer to give you some names of happy clients. If I didn't have the legal aid, I may have been very tempted to say, well, forget it. It's just costing me so much money with a lawyer, and I have this to pay for and that to pay for, and I've got to live and I've got to feed my kids, and I just can't deal with it. And it does almost force you to take charge, do it, go through the process and get it over with and put it behind you. I think probably the worst thing into hitting a wall
And that happened frequently. So yeah, you do take the first step, that great big step, and as you say, you're standing at the edge of a cliff and there's a great big, what's next kind of thing. You take that first step. Well, great, you took the first step. Well, there are going to be more.
Born in Trinidad, Patricia came to Canada at the age of 10. By 13, she was without a home, but managed to put herself through both high school and university. Following a criminal charge in 1989, Immigration Canada challenged her status as a landed immigrant.
For me, the word immigration is scary. The thought of being deported and the wording that they use in their letters, it scares the hell out of you. I didn't think that many people used legal aid. I really didn't. And that they covered so many different areas. I really didn't realize that. I thought it was just, you had to be sitting in a jail cell to get legal aid. Be prepared to spend the entire day in the legal aid office when you go to make your application. I wasn't prepared for that. I thought I could go and make an appointment and be in and out of there in an hour. And as much as we'd like to think that's the way it is, you really can't. It's not that way. I spent a good entire afternoon. I think you need to find a lawyer that you're comfortable with, that you believe will do his or her best for you, and they're out there. They really are out there, and there are a lot of them that will accept legal aid and still work damn hard for you. They will fight just as hard as you will. I've been afforded the opportunity to make some changes, and those changes wouldn't have been available to me if I hadn't had a lawyer who went to bat for me, who was willing to stand up and say, that's not all that there is to this woman is what's on paper. There's a lot more that needs to be looked at. And because of that, I was able to make some permanent changes in my life. He didn't treat me like a second-class citizen. He treated me with respect. He took time to sit and talk to me about what led me to his office, why I was sitting there. Pride sometimes makes us ignorant. That's probably, may sound pretty harsh, but sometimes we would rather do without than ask, or feel that we're begging, or feel that we have to depend on anybody for anything. Prior to me getting into trouble, I was part of this society. I was a part of this process. I contributed as much to legal aid and to welfare and everything else that I pay the same taxes as everybody else. I am entitled to that help now that I can't afford to do it on my own. And that's the way I had to look at it in my head. Because if I didn't look at it that way, it would feel like you're begging, and you're not. I don't know what would have happened to the case if I didn't have the ability to afford a lawyer, if I couldn't have a lawyer represent me. I'd probably be on a plane somewhere.
Debbie is 30 years old and the mother of 4. She first learned about legal aid from a social worker in the hospital where she was recovering from a spousal assault.
It's very painful. I don't think I've been through anything more painful in my life. I kept asking over and over, is it just me that's going through this much pain, this much fear? I must be really weak. And I realized it was so common. It was everything I was feeling was what everyone else going through the experience has felt. I feel you have to be really prepared that it's not going to be straightforward when you have to go and deal with the legal system. It's definitely there to work for you, but you do have to really work at it. And be prepared that there are going to be stumbling blocks all along the way, but you have to focus on what your goal is. If it's your children, yourself, whatever it is, you have to keep that focus and realize it's all for a purpose. I'd advise any woman to get anything they believe that'll prove the character of the person they're dealing with, that the courts won't know, can't possibly know by looking at you and looking at the other person. Get anything that you think might be important to bring to court.
Whether it's not used or not, whether it's used or not, then it's not used, fine, but you have it there. And I think that's really important. That takes time. It was hours every day on the phone, or running to a courthouse, or running to a counseling session, whatever, trying to make everybody okay. And on the one hand, it was good because you do need to keep busy in these times, because there's a lot of depression that comes in. It comes out of nowhere, and it's overwhelming sometimes. So I believe in getting support emotionally through groups, maybe women's groups or individual counseling. If you have really good friends, that's great. But it's really time-consuming. But as long as you know, again, that there's a focus and you're going towards that goal. I work with women now that have put everything off because they don't emotionally want to deal with things. And now they're right back where I started. I really believe that it's important to get right onto things. I think it helps you get through the whole process. And it's better to have it behind you than to have that to look forward to, because it's not. It's a lot of work. I made the decision that I wasn't going to connect with anyone, whether it was a salesperson, whether it was a lawyer, whether it was a dentist, that I didn't feel a good communication with and understanding and feel comfortable with. So I found out through Legal Aid how I go about changing lawyers. And it's simple. You go down and fill out the form, tell the reason why you want to change lawyers, and it's nice to know that you can do that without any big deal. I'm very grateful for Legal Aid, because I wouldn't be anywhere if I wouldn't have a great lawyer right now, which I ended up getting. I wouldn't have a great lawyer right now if I didn't have Legal Aid. I didn't realize what was out there for me to reach out to. And if I would have known all there was out there, I think I might have made the decision sooner. It was really embarrassing for me because I've always considered myself a well-informed woman, and this shouldn't be happening to someone like me. But it happens to all different types of women, and that's what I've learned when I came out of my shell and said, this is what I went through. I just heard stories from all around me, women going through the same thing. And I think sometimes even in the upper class it might be harder for these women to break away, to have to phone the police and have the police in your neighborhood, and just to start talking and realize you're not alone. It happens in so many different forms, in so many different ways to so many different women.
Roxanne's divorce is still pending. She is now caring for her family and earning a degree as a part-time student. Nazneen is now happily remarried and has resumed her career as an author. Wendy's divorce is now resolved. She's self-employed and getting on with her life. Patricia's immigration case is still pending. If she wins, she plans to study law. Debbie's divorce is in process. She now counsels other women facing family problems.